In the second episode of Accused, another morality case is presented, but things are very much more cut and dry this time. So, to summarize this episode, a woman named Ava, who is a surrogate for a woman named Jenny, she fears that with giving birth to a child who's either hard of hearing or deaf, there is a likelihood that that child, who's named Lucy, will experience the same thing she did through her mother Rose, who didn't do much in order to aid Ava's upbringing as a deaf woman. She didn't find her a deaf community, didn't really have time to find her assistance, or even with Rose being overwhelmed as a single parent, even learn how to sign. And because Ava feared that would be the case for Jenny and also Jenny's husband's Max child, Lucy, she decides to kidnap her, which originally she does with her partner KJ, who was hard of hearing, but after some point when Ava realizes that there wouldn't be a means of kidnapping this child and maybe getting custody, even though she is a surrogate and signed away her rights, she turns herself in. And it is through during the trial revealing the relationship she has with her mother Rose, and Rose really showing her behind during her time on the stand, that Max and Jenny, despite their initial anger, also the feelings of betrayal they had, deciding to ask the state to not pursue the case and then drop the charges. Which, thanks to Ava going from having someone who is a hearing lawyer who seems like a public defender who's used to getting plea deals to getting an actual lawyer who is deaf, that allows her to get the case dismissed and to continue living her life. And not only doing that, but also inspiring Max and Jenny to start to learn how to not just see Lucy's deafness as a potential issue they need to fix, but rather it being something that they need to embrace as parents and let go of these ideals they have for her. The highlight of this episode of Accused is it gives a perspective from a deaf person about modifications to make them like hearing people. In terms of our knowledge of deaf and hard of hearing media, there is Switched at Birth, which ended on Freeform many years ago, and then there's Coda, which is available on Apple TV Plus, which also came out many years ago. But naturally, one show and one movie cannot represent the deaf experience or hard of hearing experience as a whole. And what we appreciated from this episode of Accused is that even if Ava's story isn't universal, at the same time, it presented an issue to keep in mind. It presented an issue of people thinking that if you have a deaf child, they need to be fixed, rather than like Ava's example of a gay child. What you really need to do is help them find community, help them find language, and also release these ideals and dreams that you have for them and allow them to form their own and also get to make their own decisions about how they live their life. And in my mind, as we go forward, these type of conversations can't just be like one episode thing or one show thing or one movie thing, because as we've seen with the Black community, as we've seen with Latinos, as we get more and more representation in film and TV shows, there needs to be diverse representation about experiences so that it's less of this one production being put on a pedestal and you instead have a diverse example of what life is like for any type of community or culture. And while we wasn't fond of the first episode of Accused and what it did, at the very least with this episode, it felt like something truly notable, something that could have a valuable conversation beyond the controversy involved. And it leads to having far more hope for this series than we had before.